It has been a trailblazing week in the world of professional wrestling. Not only have the WWE announced a first ever women's headline act for WrestleMania, but Off the Ball, for some reason, decided to do a wrestling show, and we'll do that special in the company of Richie the Macho Man McCormack.
I can see your nicknames from here. I'm all right with them because I can do the yeah.
The Tullamore Tank, Will O'Callaghan.
Insulting because I'm not even from Tullamore, but there you go.
Do the thing! Yeah!
Better than the Awfully Oaf, which was one suggestion.
Why didn't he go with that?
That's much better.
And the Red Wrecking Ball, the big Red Wrecking Ball,
big.
The man who strikes fear into every person on Saturday night when they walk down Harcourt Street. Niall Colbert.
Could we not have gone with the Red Rooster in tribute to Terry Taylor?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. The big Red Rooster, Niall Colbert. Pop for that.
There we go. Better than Terry Taylor's. And less racist.
Where to start? I suppose the first question is, you've outed yourselves now as wrestling fans. Are you worried about how the office will see you?
Pretty sure I've already done that.
I had a very public outing this morning. It came out during the news meeting and I went beetroot red. It's not something I wanted to bring up in the office, but here we are.
How do people take it? Like, especially in that kind of news circle?
A mix of horrified and also playful. Like, they did find it quite cute, and, you know, if you're into something, you're into something. And, you know, I think professional wrestling's pretty damn cool. You know, I'm really looking forward to April 7th and WrestleMania 35, so I won't hide it from this point on.
There was always that Lance Russell description of it, whereas for those who don't know, Lance Russell was the commentator in Memphis for many years. He always said, for those who enjoy it, no explanation is needed. For those who don't, no explanation will do.
Yeah,
which
that's
probably
actually spot on. Yeah,
and Lance was pretty spot on with those things.
When we were going to talk about Becky Lynch on OTB AM this morning, I mentioned in the office, and Neil was like, well, sure, you might as well give out the results of Footballers' Wives or Dream Team or one of them. It's the same thing. And I'm like, you know what?
No, it's not, because both of those shows have been cancelled.
There's no point. Once we're at that level of not understanding, there's no point of even trying to explain. It is a pretty seismic moment, the fact that there's going to be a women's main event. Did you ever see it as a wrestling fan growing up? I mean, I was the Attitude Era where women were... They were not taken seriously, is probably the nicest way and most polite way to put it.
Yeah, I started watching, late 80s, early 90s, when Sky One would have had it on then. And just the idea of an Irish wrestler competing at all just seemed anathema. Like, there were people like Velvet McIntyre, who was billed as being from Dublin, but was actually from some point in the Midwest. There was another guy who was called the Dublin Destroyer, who I think was from...
him.
He was from Boston.
He jobbed on Raw a few times to Bret Hart.
He jobbed lots. But that was basically the extent of what you were going to get if you wanted Irish representation in wrestling. Giant Haystacks, I guess, might come closest because he had family from the West, but that was more or less it. The idea is you'd have an Irish competitor on that grand stage would be just mad, and the fact that it's an Irish woman doing it in the first ever time that a women's match is headline WrestleMania in its 35-year history, it's just crazy. It's just it's a lot to get your head around if you've been a fan for as long as I have been. It really, really is, and all credit to Rebecca Quinn for doing it.
Yeah, and there's so much tokenism in a lot of women's sport, and the way that the search for equality mightn't be going the right direction. In if it's not earned, don't give it. But this is absolutely earned and deserved. Like, they are the most compelling storyline. It's the best build, the best program. It makes sense. It's a no-brainer for them to be the main eventers.
Well, it's like Richie said, you know, about an Irish main eventer in this. I would have thought that Finn Balor would have probably got to the main event of WrestleMania before Becky Lynch, particularly if you think that Becky Lynch had no momentum whatsoever about 12 months ago. This has nearly been entirely self-driven. Like, if you think about it, she was kind of in a very wandering position. There was even talk that WWE might let her contract run down. They didn't seem to have a programme for her. And now, this year, she has become the hottest property in wrestling and has probably had that run since maybe... Evolution of last year, probably that pay-per-view. And I know that WWE like to blow their own trumpet about the fact that they've had a women's revolution in the last 5 or 6 years, but genuinely some of the women's wrestling has been the best wrestling across Raw and SmackDown. Bizarrely enough, as we see with Asuka's situation, they've now lumped all of the female talent onto Raw, and Asuka now is probably going to have a very poor opponent for this coming pay-per-view. But it's remarkable how far it's come and how far women's wrestling has come. If you consider the way the divas were treated in kind of the mid-2000s to late 2000s, it's been a remarkable turnaround the last 5 or 6 years particularly.
Niall, when you look at it, I mean, few people could have predicted Becky would be where she is now. Is it all self-driven? Because a lot of it seems to be, as the lads have touched on, she seemed to be a week away from getting the best of luck in your future endeavours email, and she somehow turned it around through sheer force of will and putting herself over somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, recent reports say that she's like the #1 merchandise seller in the company at the minute, and that says a lot about where she stands at the moment. Like, you can look to the likes of Stone Cold Steve Austin, who sold millions of t-shirts back in the 90s, early 2000s, and now Becky Lynch is in that right now. But as Will kind of said there a second ago, I was surprised as well. Like, the likes of Sheamus hasn't been there before. Finn Balor, he said as well. But there's been a huge outpouring of support for her over the past day or so. I mean, even in terms of where it reached, yesterday I published it on a news site. That's the kind of scope. Like, I thought, like, there's actually a huge wide public interest in this. And the fact that someone from Dublin is in the main event of WrestleMania, like, millions of people are going to watch this. It's absolutely unbelievable, and all credit to her.
I was trying to think about this earlier on when I knew we were going to sit in here and do this. I was trying to think of an Irish performer in any field that currently has as many eyeballs or as much attention as she does on her right now, because like, if we're going to go from the purely entertainment point of view, there's no band at that level at the moment. U2 aren't touring, U2 aren't where they were in the late 80s, early 90s, possibly the parts of the 2000s. There's no Irish actor that's kind of on the bubble at the minute. Colin Farrell's doing okay in Dumbo, and
Saoirse Ronan probably.
But just in terms of like live eyeballs that are going to be viewing an Irish performer on one night, it's just mind-boggling. And the fact that she could probably walk down Grafton Street and most people wouldn't recognise her.
That's a scary fact as well. Like, 80,000 people are going to be at MetLife Stadium to watch this. McGregor could have only dreamed of performing in a stadium with 80,000 people. He never got there. He may never get there at this point. When you look at how far she has come as a performer, is it all down to her own force of will? Is it all down to her putting herself over? Have creative factor in a way that we
they would have had to, because as we've seen before, people like Zack Ryder, people who purely go out on their own and try and get themselves over and try and get themselves a groundswell of popularity, that works to a degree, but ultimately, you know, Vince or the office are going to be pissed off that these people have gone out and done it without their say-so and without their fingerprints being all over it. There are some Vince fingerprints on this. There are some Triple H fingerprints on this. She clearly went to them with an idea, going, listen, I'm spinning my wheels at the minute. How about we try this? You let me go and run my mouth to a degree. You can kind of point me in the direction what you want me to say, and we'll see how that takes off. And luckily for her, it has.
I think it's funny, actually, back in the day that they pointed out that they absolutely hated her accent back in the day, and now it's one of the big things that got her over. You know, that Dublin accent just shines when you're spitting trash on a microphone. It's absolutely fantastic. My Bogra accent just can't compete when I'm running my mouth.
But people still fear the big red wrecking ball. What did she say in her own words? Let's have a look at the tweet that she put up after the WWE made the announcement that she will be the main eventer. And I think she basically said, I deserve it, is to paraphrase it. An incredible graphic. Hard to believe that the biggest female star on the planet at the moment is Ronda Rousey in terms of any kind of athletic pursuit. But Becky Lynch is in that match and is probably where all, Richie, you made the point, probably where all the eyeballs are on. She is the dominant persona in that match, which 18 months ago, 2 years ago, few could have believed that she would be the one we're all wanting to see in that.
And especially given the fanfare that Rousey came in with just over a year ago, everybody would have presumed that she was going to run roughshod over the roster, and by the time WrestleMania comes around, she'd basically have a crowning achievement. She'd wander off into the sunset and do what she wants to do for a year and come back whenever she pleases then in a kind of Batista role. But she's been put in a happy place and big style. I imagine it probably rubs her up a little the wrong way. I know there's been her RondaRousey.com videos whereby she's trashed the business. But what
do you think of them? Like, are you okay with them? Are you comfortable with them, or do you think it's?
I think it's kind of unimaginative, because I don't think she's done that without their say so.
Yeah.
And if they have, allowed her to go that direction, I don't think it does them any favours.
Is it cheap heat?
Yes.
The cheapest?
Yeah, it absolutely is, because you're basically just it's the I suppose the new way, because you can't necessarily go from town to town and slag off fans of a local arena and say, oh, the Bruins are doing so rubbish, like
Cool sports.
Yeah, because that doesn't, it's a worldwide product, so that doesn't necessarily translate to somebody who's watching it in Dublin, or somebody who's watching it in Berlin, or somebody who's watching it in, I don't know, New Delhi or whatever, which is what they're concentrating on. They're a worldwide product, and they need the heat to be somewhat universal. So I'd imagine that's what they were presuming they do. Slag off all wrestling fans. Just go, all you wrestling fans are idiots.
Yeah.
I'm the real one in the room. This is how I'm going to get myself over. And it's worked to a degree, because a lot of people have bought into the fact that this is genuine stuff that she's spouting while she's having her hair undone in a hotel room. But it's not. I don't think it's I don't think it's as close to the bone as we're probably presuming.
It's a match which is kind of an unusual one to try and get heat on as well, because Becky Lynch has kind of been somewhat flirting between being a heel and a baby face as part of.
Oh, they definitely wanted her to be a heel initially.
Yeah,
Because
she was coming out cutting those "You People" promos, and people were like, "No, come on, we're not having this."
I think they were happy enough maybe to keep some of those traits in her character as well. Like, in a way, she is kind of a repackaged Stone Cold Steve Austin going into this, and it's been a case of putting as many obstacles as possible in front of her about the actual match, the knee injury, the idea of her being taken out, they weren't going to medically clear her, Charlotte Flair gets the place, so everything has been set up in a way that, you know, Becky Lynch is the story to go into this and to win, to try and keep Ronda Rousey popular into the match as well. Plus Charlotte Flair, even though Flair has, I think, works an awful lot better as a heel going into this, tends to get cheered even when she is a heel, because she kind of carries off that Ric Flair personality about her as well.
But when you throw her in there with a match with Rousey as well, she's going to come off as something of a face anyway.
Yeah.
Because everybody just wants Rousey to go away for a while now, because she's been shoved down so many people's
I tell you what, I think they are seriously though running out of steam in the entire feud. Like, I watched
the build,
last night.
so long.
The TV build has been so haphazard.
I don't know if that kind of takes away from what we'll see on Sunday week, but I definitely feel a little bit of viewer exhaustion at the moment. I'm like, last night they had a beat the clock challenge with the prize being momentum going into WrestleMania, and it was absolutely pointless.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, Michael Cole basically turned around and said, well, Becky Lynch can now prove that she can beat Ronda Rousey, and I'm just like, by what?
No.
Like beating someone in the Riot Squad.
She's proved that she can beat Liv Morgan in 8 seconds faster than Rousey beat Sarah Logan.
Like, what are they going to do next week? You know, all I can imagine is that they're going to do that Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar tussle over the belt or something,
I mean,
which would be horrific.
they're dragging it out 6 months. That's the biggest problem. They've had to really draw every drop of blood going back to Survivor Series.
But they used to be able to, without wanting to hark back, and I know there's a lot more television for them to write, but they used to be able to write and build programs that were 6 months long. I mean, you look at the arc that was, what was it, between WrestleMania 4 and 5 with Hogan, the Mega Powers essentially.
Yes.
The 1 year.
It was a pure 1 year build. Get them together, have Hogan, lay out DiBiase, and then for that year they'll be mates. Midway through, lust in your eyes, Hogan, and then they'll on the downward slope to have.
I love your Macho Man, Richie. I'm a big fan.
It's 30 years of practice.
You're doing well with it.
But yeah, they used to be able to build for 6 months. They used to be able to build for a year.
They have done it recently, though. They did it with The Rock and John Cena.
Yep.
Maybe not to the same effect
for the first one,
but they did do it for a year. But I don't know, just with this one,
they managed to pick their spots. They managed to pace that out, I think, a little bit better than they did with this. I don't think it was every week. And if it was, God damn it, that Fruity Pebbles phrase was great.
Ronda Rousey's weakness on the mic is the other big problem that they have when they're trying to build towards this as well. She's had problems in her promos.
She has had problems in her promos. It's a weird thing about wrestling fans where we accept that it's work to a huge degree, but at the same time we get that excitement when you feel a shoot might be coming on. Mm-hmm. I saw that with Becky's tweet where she brought up the heat. She kind of trolled Ronda about the Roddy Piper stuff and Piper's thoughts about people who disrespect the business. I just thought there is something weird about bringing in dead people and having a go at them and involving them in storylines. You always feel a little bit uncomfortable. They did it with Eddie Guerrero, they did it with Ric Flair's son, and you always feel that little bit of uncertainty about doing it. What are your thoughts about using Roddy Piper in that way?
See, Rousey has lent so heavily on the Piper thing, from the I'm wearing his jacket from the literally walking down the aisle to her ridiculous point at the WrestleMania sign a year ago, to the kilt. Oh God, it was just so awkward. The promo stuff with Rousey, I'm actually okay with. I don't mind that she's a clunky promo. I don't mind that she uses kind of really unnatural verbiage, because that's, to a degree, that's her. If she just came out and cut a promo the same way that, I don't know.
Fresh.
Yeah, in the same way that, Mandy Rose or something might do on SmackDown. Like, you're just yawning if she's coming out with stuff like that. The fact that it's her, she's a little bit different. She's cast as being a little bit different. I'm totally fine with that.
Let's shoot through the rest of the card because there's a lot going on.
Have to?
Roman Reigns is back. Is there any interest at all in Roman Reigns' return?
Yeah,
I mean, sentimentally, you're pretty happy to see him back after what he's gone through, but as a match, as a build.
Absolutely. I think, in fairness to Roman Reigns as well, he's generally put on good matches. His character may not be there, but you can't blame him as a person for that. Like, it's the company who has driven that. But I'm excited to see him back. Last night, I saw him, qualify for that match with Drew McIntyre. And, Drew McIntyre is a beast now. It looks like it could be a serious, Clash of the Giants, two guys really going at it. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think at the end of the day, it'll tell a good story. This is his comeback from a really serious illness, and he did have to put in a lot of hard work to get back to where he is. I saw him last night. He looks in tremendous shape, so he should be able to deliver on Sunday week. It might be a foregone conclusion as to what will actually happen, but
is he shoehorned into a programme? Because it feels like...
I'm disappointed he's back as early as he is. I thought, particularly when... this obviously was very unfortunate timing with the illness, but I think they should have left him out of the WrestleMania programme, brought him back once they've sorted out the Dean Ambrose situation, and
bring him in
maybe
Mania Monday.
Title. Bring him back a little bit later, and then obviously he was going to get the huge pop when he came back anyway. I think Drew McIntyre is a guy they're going to strap a rocket to over the next year, but I think a bit like Niall, there's no way he doesn't take a defeat.
We always need one of those Hoss fests as well, where it's two big lads, 6'5". But and to be fair, Niall's made a good point about Reigns. He's pulled possibly the best work out of Lesnar over the past few years, so I don't see any reason why this couldn't be at least entertaining anyway. Yeah,
I thought their match last year was good. I thought the cage match then, the finish was clever for that. I actually liked it, and there was a swerve there because everyone assumed that there's no way Lesnar is walking out with the big belt at Mania last year.
So Lesnar didn't even know until that morning that was going to happen.
Really?
Apparently so. Apparently they only told Roman Reigns when he arrived on the day of WrestleMania last year that they were changing it.
My biggest disappointment is I was a huge Kurt Angle fan when it wasn't cool to be a Kurt Angle fan. I had that awful Three Eyes t-shirt, which I used to hide if anyone saw it, but I would wear it kind of proudly. Angle's programme is just a little bit unfulfilling.
I'm shocked if this match actually happens.
It won't be. It can't be Corbin.
No.
It won't be. There's definitely a case where Corbin comes out to make his entrance and somebody interferes, clocks him and says there's no way we're going to let it go down like this, be it a Cena, be it Undertaker, be it somebody else even. It seems such a waste of Kurt Angle's final match,
especially when they've given him Styles and Joe over the last few weeks,
and even the start of last night's match when they had Joe last night as we record this, it harked back to their confrontation when Angle debuted in TNA, whereby they were face to face in the ring and Angle loafed him, and then last night they were face to face in the ring and Joe loafed Angle, and you're like, yes, clever. This is the kind of clever stuff you want to see, and this is the kind of stuff they probably could have used at WrestleMania. But Jesus, no, Corbin has absolute go-away heat. Nobody wants him anywhere near a wrestling ring at the minute.
I think they're using
2019's X-Pac, isn't he?
He absolutely is. He's got pure go-away heat where you're just like, Jesus, mate, I don't care. Just go. Just go away.
I was really hoping when they said that Angle was going to have a retirement match, it would be Samoa Joe. In a way, it's kind of a waste having Joe and Mysterio, when Mysterio and Andrade had a pretty good run of matches going as well. I think that would have been a more interesting match for WrestleMania as well. I think Corbin gets subbed out somewhere close to it, maybe even on the night of it. There are rumours that it could be Cena and Undertaker again. There's still 2 or 3 matches still to go onto this 8-hour programme.
Jeez, even the fact that Andrade doesn't have a match on there, I'd love to see him thrown in there against Angle. Just on a purely fantasy basis. I don't want to get into fantasy booking. That'd be amazing.
Give HBK a shot. One last match.
He's not interested.
He wasn't interested.
He's not interested.
He's not bothered.
After the Saudi thing, he's just like, no. Yeah. And that was painful.
The other thing about it is Angle, I saw his match with Chad Gable last week, and it was poor. And like, Gable's a very good wrestler, and he'd be very good at getting a match out of somebody, and Angle is struggling. He struggled at WrestleMania last year too. I mean, everyone kind of enjoyed that match. His timing
was off, wasn't it?
It was way off. And anytime he's been in the ring since, I mean, this is a guy who's had multiple fusion surgeries. Yeah. He's had plenty of demons in his life over the last few years as well.
He shouldn't be wrestling.
Yeah.
But let him go out with a big name, because the problem is...
they will.
If he has this unfulfilling WrestleMania match and gets released in 12 months, he's probably going to go back on the indies, take a load of money and face one of the big indie guys. Like he did Cody Rhodes in one of the big indies in the UK. If he doesn't feel like he gets the right end to his career in WWE, these guys keep chasing it. Like Flair and Hogan were still going in their 60s. There's no reason why Angle doesn't keep going on the indies.
I can't see him. For some reason, I think Angle was brought back in to such a degree that they'll look after him. Like, he's definitely got a Legends contract to his name. He'll be an ambassador and he'll go around and do bits and pieces. I don't think he's going to be forced into taking... they look after that generation of wrestlers a little bit better than the ones that literally just went prior. I think he'll be okay without having to take any money.
As hard as the Angle stuff is to stomach at the moment, the gimmick stuff with the SNL lads...
Oh, that was horrific.
Like, what is this about?
There are 2 lads who are so unconvincing, and they're going to be 2 wasted spots in an already horrific battle royal.
Yeah.
Like, And then you've got Braun Strowman in there as well. He's absolutely wasted in
Like,
that
this is
match.
your pizza break. This is your get your food, because there's no interest in this.
Well,
whatsoever.
this is definitely going to be on the pre-show.
Yeah.
So
This is your Mountain Dew pre-show main event.
oh Lord, like it's
like, they're not even the funniest guys on SNL.
No.
You wouldn't mind if you got someone good, like a
Not big names
Kristen
either,
Wiig or
like.
Jason Sudeikis, or one of these clever people. Kate McKinnon.
I guess we mentioned Ronda Rousey kind of breaking the fourth wall in terms of wrestling. Those two lads didn't do it last night, but they certainly seemed like they were kind of in on the act or something.
Yeah.
Like, they were so inconvincing in their kind of like, oh, Braun, it'd be a shame to see you at WrestleMania. Oh my goodness, not for me. But
I can see why they're doing it. It's like New York
It's
market,
eyeballs.
New York
Yeah.
celebrities.
Crossover.
Mainstream attention.
Somebody on network TV promoting WrestleMania a couple of weeks out. They're delighted with that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
It's an interesting point though on Braun Strowman, because this is now 2 years in a row that Strowman hasn't had a serious match. Last year he had the kind of joke around with Nicholas for the tag team championships.
that's a year ago.
I
My
still like
goodness.
that. I thought that was
I thought it was
funny.
fine.
Oh, it's fine, but I think the fact that Braun Strowman has been immensely popular between WrestleManias, and now here he is going into a gimmick match again. It's really weird that he's not getting used.
I need somebody better placed than myself to kind of give insight in this. But as far as I know, he's his own worst enemy backstage in terms of attitude and stuff. He can bury himself. It's
Yeah.
where he's getting a push, and then I don't know. He's maybe even not wholly convinced in what he's doing, or he's not happy, and just kind of gets a little bit of boo-boo face about him, and kind of shrinks back. But he should, given the amount of pushes that they've given to him so far, he definitely should be not working the Andre Battle Royal for the
Just think
millionth time.
it's unusual that you've got, say, who you would have never dreamed 12 months ago, Kofi Kingston and Becky Lynch as the two people with the most push going into this WrestleMania. Very little for Braun Strowman. Shinsuke Nakamura is way down the card. Kevin Owens not involved. A lot of guys who seemed to be ready last year to move to that next level are going to be either way down the card or maybe not even there.
Yeah, Balor, are we happy with what he's doing going into WrestleMania? Shot at the IC title.
Stupid program.
It's the second year in a row he's going for the Intercontinental title.
Great
And they
match
gave
last
it to him
year.
for a little while, and then he lost it, and now he's chasing it again.
He's a poor guy. Like, I love him. I think he's a great character. We have to see the Demon on Sunday week.
Yeah.
If we don't,
I think they made reference to that last night, didn't they?
yeah. And like, if they don't, like, if that stadium will erupt if the Demon comes out. If not, like, if he flicks his collar and everything, I like him, but like, it's very bland.
Going
It is quite
nowhere, isn't it?
boring.
Like, what's
He's
it
been
for?
made to look really, really weak in this entire program. Like, he had to beat Leo Rush, who is, the mouth of this kind of three-way relationship going into the match. He wasn't able to get a pinfall victory over Bobby Lashley. Lashley's going to look strong coming out of this as well, which I guess is the ultimate aim, because Balor is going to win, take the IC belt while wearing the Demon gear, and Lashley can always come out of this and say, hey, I've only lost to him in this circumstance.
Yeah.
It's a weird one, but they seem to be very keen on Bobby Lashley.
He got a
last
win
night.
over a former WWE champion last night, Jinder Mahal. I don't know if that adds any shine to it.
Why do you say Jinder Mahal like that, Niall?
It is what it is.
Almost like he was just inserted shamelessly in to get some views from that part of the world.
What, Canada?
Jinder Mahal.
Where he's from.
Triple H, what are we feeling about that? Because he's been out since he tore the shite out of his pec.
I just hope he's able to go, because I don't think, like, there's going to be a hell of a lot of ring rust about Dave Bautista.
Like, Batista was never able to go.
He was.
He looked ring rust in almost every match.
I don't know.
was in.
There was a lot of good stuff about Batista's initial run, especially. Granted, he was just a massive power guy, but
You're a wrecking ball.
yeah, but it's whether these two are able to go. If the best case scenario is they actually book themselves something like what Goldberg and Lesnar did over the last 18 months or so, or whatever. Is that 2 years ago?
and sweet, 2 years ago.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
There's no reason for these lads to have a 15-minute match where they're trying to prove that they're workhorses, because it'll suck the life out of that stadium, suck the life out of the TV audience, and make them both look like fools.
I think Triple H's ego won't allow him to go
That's
less than
the
25
thing.
minutes.
Yeah.
though.
Because it's the career on the
Including
line. He's
entrance.
like, I gotta go 12, 15 minutes on this at least. You're like, no, mate, you don't. You really don't. Because some of those matches that he had with the Undertaker were just too long.
Yeah.
This could be a rest hold fest. It really
No, but
could.
here's the thing: it's no holds barred. So part of me thinks they're admitting already there's going to be no wrestling here. We're going to come out.
Oh, it's 100% gaga.
We're going to beat each other up. And
Someone's going through a table within the first 2 minutes. It's going to be a lot of like sitting, breathing, going, what's going to happen next?
It's going to be a sledgehammer
Who's going
finish.
to go next? Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Triple H will be
Walking
beaten
and
by his
punching.
own sledgehammer. It's kind of an unceremonious end for his career, because his career has been amazing, and he'll probably never get the credit he deserves because of his backstage role.
I think given the fact that he's got that massively prominent backstage role, he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But he's going to be able to placate his own ego plenty over the next
him as an
while.
in-ring character, does he not deserve a better end, a more fitting end?
I think going out in front of 80,000 people at MetLife Stadium against one of your best mates.
and
okay.
one of your old rivals as well, like former teammate. Like I'd be happy enough actually.
He's lost the last 2 years. It hasn't taken any sheen off.
Of the people that are left available for him to do that with, like your potentials back in the day would have been what, Flair, Michaels, maybe
Angle.
someone like Angle and Randy Orton. Yeah,
If they hadn't done a throwback angle where Angle was creeping all over Stephanie for a couple of months and it got to a point where
would anybody believe that now at this stage?
yeah.
I mean, I didn't believe it
Still in the year what?
in the year 2000, but I still thought it was gas crack. The last one, I suppose, the women's main event probably benefits from the fact that there's not a huge amount of interest in the other two men's titles on the line. You've got the WB title, you've got Kofi against Daniel Bryan. Briefly, is there a lot of interest in this?
SmackDown title race is a lot hotter than the Raw one. The Raw one is cold because you haven't had Lesnar on TV. Kofi Kingston has a lot of momentum going into this. They're going with he's going to get screwed all the way up to the very end finish. He's going up against Daniel Bryan, who had to come up against a lot of challenges before, but now he's the heel in this relationship. It's interesting. I can't see them putting Kofi Kingston over on the night, because you can't really have Becky Lynch win, Seth Rollins win, and then him win as well. So I get the feeling Daniel Bryan is going to retain, but I think that's much more interesting than the Raw.
That's the intrigue for me, is actually because traditionally they go with happy face win, end of the show, fireworks, boom, see you tomorrow night, folks, which leads everybody to presume that Becky's going to win. But they've highlighted.
It's too easy.
They've highlighted so far out. You don't usually find out until the night what's actually going to be the last match.
Yeah.
And they've highlighted this a week and a half out. Granted, probably to get a bit of publicity, but I think that adds a little bit of a variable into who we think will actually come through.
Charlotte could win, and Becky and Charlotte could have a very interesting program once we're out.
I think they will anyway. But yeah,
I think though, if you're kind of looking at a full story though, and you're going the women's evolution and all that, Becky winning makes kind of logical sense in terms of that's going to be your graphic for the next year when you're talking, or the next 10 years when you're talking about this evolution and looking back on it. It's a successful babyface after the end of it, holding the title up high. That's my opinion now, but that may not happen.
That's where we leave our WrestleMania chat. We will actually be broadcasting on WrestleMania Monday. I'll be live in New York. Hopefully Richie and Will be sitting here chatting about what we imagine will be a decent show. For now, though, we're going to show you an OTT video. They've started a wrestling revolution here in Ireland, and if you're a wrestling fan in Dublin and you haven't been to OTT, you're missing out. Have a look.
It's amazing, and just to be even like the smallest part of it is awesome. I can't tell you as a person how this makes me feel and how thankful I am for legitimately all of this.
It's a special place in my heart, and I don't know how many independents I'll be able to do going forward. I don't know if I'll be back here, but if I didn't know where I'd be here forever, so.
I found it hard to believe then, and even today, when it's a couple of hours away, I still find it kind of hard to believe that I'm wrestling like it's a major privilege.
OTT has become one of Europe's top promotions. I mean, the wrestling world is watching because we have something different.
So that is OTT wrestling. We've all drank the Kool-Aid. I think we're all in the OTT cult, with the exception of the Offaly Oaf Will O'Callaghan, a fitting name considering you've never gone to any OTT show. What is wrong with you?
To my shame, I work Saturday evenings and Sundays, so I haven't had a chance to go.
Who's responsible for that?
Probably the people who make the roster and work, I would imagine, most likely.
Call them out, Will. Look down the camera and cut a promo on them. John Duggan, you and your roster is a disgrace.
The worst part is I've actually seen quite a few of the guys who've been wrestling on OTT on different productions over the last year or so as well, and they are booking damn good wrestlers, which is the most impressive part, because many of the big promotions in the UK have been unable to get near the guys who've signed for the UK brand of NXT, and the All Elite wrestlers haven't been able to wrestle on the UK Indies as well. But bizarrely enough, OTT have been able to book them and put matches against each other. Like a couple of months ago, you had formerly Neville, now Pac, up against Volter.
And it was class.
And that couldn't happen on any British independent production at the moment. So, OTT have cornered the market off, and just from watching the videos, they look like they're incredibly well attended, really good atmosphere at them as well. And Irish wrestling seems to be going through a really good period.
Yeah, I was at my first one there a couple of weeks ago, Scrappermania 5. I was finally, I have to go along. I think I was drawn in by, what did I want? It was Liger.
Yeah, of course.
Because I don't know if anybody listening to this, if you do get in contact, because I don't feel like I'm hallucinating. Back in the 90s, Eurosport used to show repackaged, I think it was New Japan, maybe even some All Japan pro wrestling stuff, as voiced by Gordon Soley did voiceovers on it, Oliver Humperdinck did voiceovers on it, and a couple other well-known commentators. But they basically repurposed what at the time, when I'm thinking of when I was viewing it, was probably about 2-3 year old stuff. But I ended up seeing a lot of Jushin Thunder Liger, a lot of Shinya Hashimoto.
Where was it? Eurosport?
Eurosport.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, it was New Japan matches with American commentary, and I saw a lot of Liger back then. I was just like, who is this lad? This is amazing. So when I saw that he was actually booked in Dublin, like literally about 3 weeks after announcing he'd be retiring in January, I was like, right, that's it. I'm only going to get one chance to see.
It's the bucket list. It has to be on the bucket list.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So I got to see him in person, which was a huge draw for me. And he, put over Scotty Davis on the night, and everything was really wonderful. The show was brilliant, to be fair.
Will you be back?
It was really well. It's a really well paced show. They have a lovely mixture. They're just in that nice sweet spot of really good, well thought out, really logical physical matches, and some other comedy stuff as well. It's just kudos to the lads, to Joe and Angus and all the rest of them are putting it on, because it's a fantastic show.
Yeah, and it's very accessible as well for non-wrestling fans. I've brought a couple of people who work here who have no interest in wrestling. Maybe as a kid may have watched it, but just for the nostalgia value, 20 quid on a night out, we went to the Tivoli, and it was one of the best nights the guy ever had. Niall, you were the same. You were probably a bit unconvinced when I tried to pitch this to you initially, but you've well and truly bought in now. You've full buy-in.
Yeah, like I took one sip of the Kool-Aid, as you mentioned, and now I'm drinking 6 packs at a time.
Drink alcohol responsibly, I'd say. I promise.
It's actually 3 bottles for tenner now. You might as well get the deal right at the stadium if you're going to plug it.
Anyway, I guess when I first went along, curiosity, you had mentioned, I guess your first show was when Mick Foley was there, and yeah, I guess that first time it was like, oh, there's big stars show up here. But now, like after being there for, I guess over coming up to 2 years maybe at this point, going to the shows regularly, I'm invested in the Irish characters more so than the imports. And like the stars that you do get to see, it's unreal. Like, for example, even Jordan Devlin, like when I first saw him in NXT UK or that UK tournament, I hope Jordan Devlin isn't watching, but I was just kind of like, I went by the kind of same logic that a lot of fans do it when you first see him, is that he is Finn Balor light, which is, and then you later on realise that is totally incorrect. And this guy is incredibly talented, and like the reception he gets by the fans that are there, like when Richie was there, 2,200 people or whatever it was, like they're blowing the roof off this place for this guy who is putting his body on the line, and you're seeing the sort of stuff that maybe he's not necessarily permitted to do, maybe in the big leagues.
Or he definitely can't. A moonsault is his finisher in WWE. They're never allowing a package pile driver on TV.
Package pile driver is unreal, and you get to see these unbelievably incredible matches with David Starr. The Walter match on Saturday night was incredible. Like, they told an incredible story, and everyone in that arena bought into it.
But even there was little nuances to that match I noticed as well, like Walter working Devlin's hand, like essentially smashing it over and over again, so that, you know, this is like, it's a really old school wrestling trope, work on one body part.
Yeah.
But to see it up close, to see what Walter was doing with Devlin's hand, and a couple of times he tried to throw something and wasn't able to. It was just really well told.
Just on the crowd as well. I know I brought my girlfriend to the show. You brought
I
your
brought
girlfriend
mine,
as well.
yeah. Laura's come.
And they really enjoy it, even though they may not realistically have any interest in wrestling. By the end of it, they were like, actually, that was pretty cool. And we did just kind of hang out for the night and see a lot of action at the same time. And they're drawn into it. Like, it's a story of athleticism and just the great mix of characters. Like I mentioned, the Irish stars there, like the Session Moth, like Martina.
She's a star.
Yeah,
She
an absolute
is
star.
absolutely incredible.
And like,
as an athlete first and foremost, because you look at her, you see the gimmick, you don't think there's much beyond the gimmick, but then you actually see her work. The work rate, the ability in the ring, the way she actually executes move, she is so talented, and so much more than a comedy character. She definitely doesn't get anywhere near the credit she deserves.
She's such a well-rounded character.
Yeah.
She's such a well-rounded character, and that is rare, not only in, I suppose, in the indie scene, but also just at the top level. It's like, the thing about it is, you very rarely get to make the next step while carrying that entire package over.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed for her that she does get to make that next step, because she totally deserves it.
you mentioned the comedy wrestling matches as well, like the Angel Cruisers.
Oh, Lord.
Absolutely. What did you make of your first Angel Cruisers video package?
The Angel Cruisers video package was amazingly funny.
Yeah.
It was like, and again, so well done, really well paced, and genuinely funny. Like, I LOL'd.
Which is impressive, because you don't know them, or you've no attachment to them
at all. And I was just like, all right, this is good. That's fair play. On subject to video packages, without wanting to double back to the Walter Devlin thing, the video package they made for that match, like, is on a par with anything you'd see on the WWE's YouTube channel or on their network.
It's above a lot of the way they tell storytelling.
It was so
Sean
good.
Ryan is the man who produces them.
It was so good. This, ditto actually for Session Mott's match with Mako. Like, they were brilliant, and kudos to Sean if you're watching this.
Yeah,
because it was brilliant.
The level is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very hard. I love the comedy bits as much as I love the pure wrestling bits, but the fact that they can produce a product that entertains kids and adults is so clever. I remember my friend Tony brought his son for the first time, Ryan, and they didn't really know what to expect. They were just there for Devlin. They were WWE fans. They were there because Devlin was the draw. But one of the Club Tropicana, they came out to Toto Africa.
Toto's Africa, yeah.
You missed out on their manager, a hilarious man by the name of Jose Idol, who speaks broken English and has a fake mustache and is just so over the top. But he is absolutely manfully defending the honour of his tag team at one stage, and these guys are trying to bully Club Tropicana, and he stops and he says, "You leave my friends alone or I will fist you."
Even there was a lovely moment.
The adults laugh, the kids laugh, everyone loves
There
it.
was a lovely moment with Valkyrie the other night as well, whereby she was trying to block herself between herself and Raven Creed, and she just goes, "Save yourself!" And it was like really loud. She takes the hit. It was just like, I was like, well done. It's really good.
So much of it is so clever. The storytelling is great, and Will, you have got to call out the man who prevents you from going every Saturday.
Yeah, look, I'm actually really looking forward to going to see a match soon, when I actually have a weekend off, I think, over the next month. I'm definitely going to try and get it down to the next card. Because aside from anything else, I remember when I was younger going to see cards in Dublin when the Feds came over here. WCW and WWE did a few really poor tours.
Do you know there's a full handheld version of the WCW show from like '93? It's either
On
Knocking on
YouTube
YouTube or Dailymotion.
No.
Yeah, full like 2 hours of it. Yeah, somebody just had the camcorder, I think, at the rail, and they were like, somebody asked them, "Are you supposed to be filming this?" I think the famous story is, "Are you supposed to be filming this?" And just went, "Yeah." So they kept going.
I am authorised by World Championship Wrestling and Turner Broadcasting.
2 hour show with like Sting. There was a WCW title change in Dublin back in the day. I think at this very show. Yeah.
Oh.
They basically flipped the title between Vader and Sting. I think the initial title change was here, and then they went over to London and then switched it back, just to kind of show anything can happen at a WCW house show. But yeah, that's Dublin's famous footnote, is they had a WCW title change.
That is
But
class.
for the best part, I mean, for anyone who has tickets for the European tour for Raw and SmackDown who are coming touring, if you see them here or in the UK, I kind of feel sorry for you ever so slightly. These guys are literally going to phone it in because realistically they're coming off the back of quite a long program going into WrestleMania. They don't want to get injured. Injuries do happen. We saw it happen to Seth Rollins here in Dublin a few years ago as well. Unfortunately, it's going to happen, but for the best part, you're looking at tag team matches, you're looking at no angles. You really don't get the feel you get when you go to a WWE event. Both Niall and I think have both been to WrestleMania. You're breaking your cherry this time, Darren.
Yeah. With the Mania cherry, first time it's on the East Coast, and I'm going to get to see Becky Lynch headline, which, I mean, 10 years ago I wouldn't have even imagined.
Yeah, once you don't fall asleep, because it's a long show.
If I get till the end, I'll be doing pretty well.
Can I just say, don't drink. Whatever you do, don't drink, because that will just dull you to the core. That is an 8-hour show.
I might need something to get through some of the poor matches on the card. What's the ceiling for OTT? Because when we first watched it, it was a couple of hundred people at the Tivoli. Then they maxed out Tivoli every night, 700 people. Yeah. Tivoli since dearly departed, they knocked it down. So their shows are probably going to run a little more infrequently because they're struggling for venues. They went out to the National Basketball Arena, put on a brilliant show there. Atmosphere was electric, matches were really good, and the venue layout worked quite well. Transport link's not wonderful, but you will survive. How big can they go? Can they start doing the arena monthly?
I'd hope they'd find a venue in town that can host them monthly. I think the stadium monthly might be a bit fanciful. I think it works in their favour to kind of do possibly, quarterly shows and that used to be the trend for bigger companies and that as well. It'd be like work a decent sized venue once a quarter, and in between have your solid little house shows. So they might be able to work the one out by St. Pat's, and they might be able to work the one in the basketball arena, and then work towards having quarterly shows in the stadium. But they shouldn't view there being any ceiling. They should just keep trying, as they are doing, to put on the best product that they can do. Keep producing those amazing video packages. Keep booking smartly in terms of who you bring in from abroad, and you're going to build your own stars as well. I don't think they should view themselves as having any ceiling. I think if they can make a lot of friends along the way, get into certain buildings that mightn't necessarily have had wrestling before, like imagine somewhere like Vicar Street holding a show. That'd be like outstanding. I know this is tangential completely, but I know the Academy for a Fight Like Apes show back in the day did have a ring set up in the middle of the floor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, it's like, so Fight Like Apes essentially had a wrestling show, and I don't see any reason why the Academy couldn't put something like that again, because that'd be an amazing place. When you have like the balcony around, you have the whole floor, and you have people at the back. I
feel like old school ECW.
It absolutely would. That'd be a superb place.
I think
it feels like you're part of something special going to the shows. I know that might sound a bit corny or cheesy, but like I get the sense that maybe people who were there on ECW in the early days, they probably had that same feeling too, where you feel that what you're a part of is going somewhere, and in 15, 20 years time will be fondly remembered as a golden era of wrestling. It really feels like the start of something special, I hope, and not the peak, not the end of it.
I was worried things were going to go south for them once WWE started signing up Irish and UK independent acts. I thought this might just dry up the talent. Their contracts are going to restrict them from working for certain different companies. But that obviously hasn't affected them. As Richie said, there's been smart booking so far, not overly relying on past stars that were formerly in the Feds coming across either. Like even the guys that they're booking currently, like even say booking someone like Pac, who is really hot currently anyway and is going to go to AEW. If they're clever about maybe some of the guys who are working in All Elite and they can be brought over to just maybe supplement some cards, push your own talent, I don't see any reason why they couldn't be doing shows in the arena on a fairly regular basis. But like that, they probably need to keep them special.
How far we've come moment was how much of a footnote Hurricane Helms was in that last show. 10 years ago you would have been looking at Hurricane Helms headlining a show like that in Dublin.
Darren, and now you should tell them about trying to hijack Hurricane's mask.
He said no. Tried to get a picture with the mask on, he's like, this doesn't come off.
I met him in 2002. He wasn't the friendliest guy that I've ever met in the wrestling industry.
He wasn't staying here.
Very serious.
He wasn't staying here.
He was very serious.
Yeah. He was Hurricane back then as well. I remember a lot of people were kind of going up to him trying to get the kind of Hurricane character and stuff, and this is at WWE Access as well.
He was not happy to live the gimmick.
He was not playing along.
I think just on the ceiling as well, like in terms of...
Can they go to the 3 Arena? Can they go somewhere like that, or is that just playing the sky stuff?
Let's go lower than that for now. Like I think...
TNA did, and they didn't have much of an audience. I was at that show, and that was well curtained off.
They're doing fantastic in Dublin. They're also going up to Belfast.
Yeah.
I see no reason why they couldn't maybe go to other cities throughout Ireland. Like, you always hear that there are a lot of fans that do travel quite far to get to the shows, and they seem to be very loyal fans. They seem to be there all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there is a case to push it out. If you're only doing the 4 shows in the arena or whatever every year, maybe you could put a case for putting on a smaller show in Galway or Cork, even though they have their own brands. But if they have them there, maybe they can put them on OTT on demand, and the viewers that go to these gigs in Dublin might pay that £7 to watch those shows and see the continuity in storylines.
Yeah, they just have to be, just be smart and be careful, because it is, like, Ireland as a whole is a very small audience for anything. So when you're kind of a niche product like they are, there is only a certain amount of fans that you're ever going to properly reach, but they don't necessarily need to think in those terms. They can just try and build themselves steadily along the way.
It's weird that you could nearly consider them as a sleeping giant, because there's a massive latent fan base of Attitude Era guys in their mid-20s, early 30s who would like that kind of entertainment and just don't know it's out there. Yeah. So there's a massive potential audience. No matter what the audience they have now, the potential to grow.
Yeah, I won't be put off by the kind of, because I've been to the WWE tour shows over here. They're very, very, very young in terms of audience.
Yeah.
It kind of almost feel weird now to play to those things. You're like, I'm in my 30s here.
It's not for you. Like,
600 Rey Mysterio masks around you.
Yeah. And trying to get the lols out of parents who are, with John Cena supporting kids, and you're booing him. And they're like, I was like, get control of your child. That happened.
Dad, stop booing John Cena. You're embarrassing me.
But yeah, the 3 Arena, it's a venue thing in Dublin.
Yeah,
there's nothing between the 3 Arena and, say, the Olympia. But why not think in those terms and getting something in the Olympia, or getting something in the
I think it's going to help them as well, Darren, is the fact they're getting a bit of international exposure as well. They're frequently talked about on, say, things like the What Culture Wrestling podcast and so on. Dave Meltzer has tweeted about them a few times, and he's getting people to send him videos and matches and so on.
Yeah, I was listening to Chris Zellner giving props to Session Bot on Between the Sheets there the other week.
Yeah, like that's probably, that's international prestige and getting into the market, which you probably couldn't buy really. It's going to be interesting to see, maybe will fans from the UK come to Dublin to see cards potentially?
Definitely.
When they're being offered matches that they can't see over there, they've got no choice sometimes,
Same as we did. Like Irish fans definitely went over to England kind of thinking that they're going to see something of progress that they wouldn't have seen here, so why not?
And now it's here for them. Niall, you mentioned that you went for the initial big names. Like, I went for Mick Foley and to get my selfie with Mick Foley, and that was a great moment, and buy the Cactus Jack t-shirt. But on that same show, I mean, they had Ricochet on the card, they had War Machine on the card, they had Marty Scurll on the card, they had so many guys that are on the path to being superstars now, who at the time were lower down the totem pole. Joe Cabray deserves massive credit for being a star maker. Like, he is the guy who is picking out wrestlers and giving them the platform to put themselves over and to make themselves really relevant in the business, where it's so packed with so many talented workers at the moment. Who, for you and the Irish scene, do you get excited about? Who do you look at and say will be big in 10 years?
On the Irish scene?
On the Irish scene.
Look, it might be an obvious choice, but I really think Scotty Davis had a standout match. Like, what is he, down the road in Dublin?
It's like 18 as well, which is crazy.
18, like, then you've got like all those guys in More Than
High. That young?
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
The first few events he worked at the Tivoli as an in-ring performer, he wasn't old enough to get into the building.
Amazing. Wow.
And he was class. He's unbelievable.
He already looks so polished.
Yeah. Ospreay loves him. Like, they did they did the Superman landing thing, and Davis pulled it off better than Ospreay, and you could see he was kind of like, you're not meant to do that, man. You're meant to make me look good here.
Davis is somebody who could do really well in Japan.
Yeah.
He could do superb stuff in Japan.
I think as well, maybe with on Davis, that the day that maybe Jordan Devlin can't do a show because he's booked somewhere else, because he's getting to that level as well. He might not be there for all that much longer. I don't know, pure speculation, but it doesn't seem like Scotty Davis is too far away from being that main event guy who kids are going to buy his t-shirts. He's got a really marketable gimmick, like the mustache, the hair, he's fantastic. He's exciting in the ring to watch, which, if you're a kid, is the most important thing. Like, we're 4 adults here talking about how they talk, how they walk, how the technique of their wrestling, whatever.
Scotty Davis does cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. If you're a kid, that's what it matters.
I have a Scotty Davis t-shirt, and I am not a kid.
Okay.
You are, Darren.
Well, I am.
Child at heart.
But I really would say him, and if that's too obvious, pardon me, but I'd say it's probably him.
Richie, Scotty Davis impressed you more than anyone else you saw on that card?
There's just so much, given his age, given his ability, given his work style. There's so many different places that he could go and do well for himself. He could attach himself onto that WWE UK brand. Not that it's necessarily huge at the moment, but it's a nice, I suppose, springboard up to the next level. He, like as I say, he could go off to Japan and do fantastic work. Like, you could see him and Ospreay doing something in, like,
they'd tear the house down, wouldn't
they? Absolutely would. Like in Koryukin Hall or something like that, they'd do fantastic stuff. It'd be great to see, and it'd be a natural kind of successor to Ricochet, seeing as he's moved on. Session Moth could absolutely do some brilliant stuff elsewhere, and I really hope that she does, because she's been a while at it now and probably deserves it. But yeah, I just, as a whole, just to see them continue on and do what they're doing, it's fantastic.
And a last word about the OTT fans, because I actually spoke to Ospreay after the last show.
All head cases.
And he made the point that the reason he loves coming back to OTT, even though his schedule doesn't really allow him to do many indie dates outside Japan, is because the fans. He made a point that the English fans try to put themselves over too much and aren't as concerned about what's happening in the ring, while the Irish fans just buy into it in a way that it makes you want to give your best performance. How special are the Irish fans to this scene, or do we give them too much credit? Is it something that wrestlers are always just going to say, oh, the fans are great, or is it meaningful when they talk about the OTT fans, when they give them props like that?
I think it is. Like, I mean, the first time I went to the show, as much as I enjoyed the wrestling, what brought me back was the fact that I really felt a part of something greater than just any wrestling show. Like, all the fans were glued to what was on in the ring. I had fun. I make my money by using my voice on air, and I came in here the next Monday with no voice because I was chanting so much. I think they play a huge part. They're not the reason for OTT success, but I mean, if the wrestlers enjoy coming back here because of the fans, I think that's a great sign.
So yeah, as on my first visit, you can see how invested everybody was. You can see how everybody clearly follows the product and was up on the chants and stuff, and that's a really unique thing for them to grasp onto, because it helps. Everything like that helps. The last thing you want is to be sitting in front of, or be performing in front of an audience that are sitting on their hands, because or to be performing in front of an audience of kids don't really care what's actually happening. They've got people investing in what's going on in the ring and in the nice little videos as well that go beforehand, and that's a good place to be.
Right, that's where we pretty much leave it. Before we'll go, you don't want to drop a pipe bomb on your boss?
No, I think I'll leave the pipe
into
on.
the camera.
As much as I'd be tempted to drop one, it probably will preclude me from ever going to an event.
You might have a lot more free time.
Yeah, you'll have a lot more free time.
Yeah,
fine.
365 days of free time.
The Macho Man, Richie McCormack, do you want to hold up the glorious winged eagle before we go?
I don't actually.
Should we do it?
I'll put my shoulder out.
Should we do a title change here, like the old WCW days? No one's expecting a title change.
I just want somebody along the way to do the Macho Man Hulk Hogan handshake. It's like, oh yeah, brother. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. That's all.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe as well. Offtheball.com.